Fear and competition can be your best friend.
Season 3 of the Little Bricks podcast is back. We've got some amazing guests. Can't wait for you to see them. We're going to be speaking mental health, addiction, recovery, sales, business, sports, all sorts of topics. Distraction kills dreams. With the people you spend time with, you will become. Tough times don't ever last, but tough people do. I cannot wait to share it with you.
This week's episode of the Little Bricks podcast is sponsored by Bespoke Financial Group, the UK's #1 life insurance broker, helping protect your little bricks too.
So welcome to the Little Bricks podcast. Jim Wheat, how are you, mate?
Great, thanks Lee. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks for taking time on a Sunday evening to have a chat with us, and we're going to listen to your life story and try and get your message across, mate, because it's a fascinating journey.
Thank you. No, it's an absolute pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your backstory, mate, leading up to where you are now, please, just so people can get a bit of a feel of your energy and your vibration.
Sure. So bottom line, civil engineer. They said I could sell sand to the Arabs, so I went out to Dubai with my master's degree and literally sold concrete additives in early 2000s to the Burj Khalifa when that was going up, the 75 metre deep foundations. And it was all going well, the big corporate machine. I'd done my master's degree in California. I'd been to university the hard way. So this isn't a story from the streets by any stretch. This is a story of me trying to fit in academically. And I was doing that wonderfully well until I was about 39, 40. And the crash came in 2008. I had a huge debt against my name in Dubai. My father passed away and my missus left me. And the result was me ripping the pictures off the wall, my telly off the wall in Dubai. Very, very lonely place when you're not winning because it's so transient. And I started painting these dollar signs all over my apartment. They said it was like Russell Crowe on Beautiful Mind, pretty much a breakdown. But I did it, and out of the ashes came this thing where I can connect dots, and I founded something called Dollarsandart, or Dollars and Art, and it's thankfully been pointing me in the right direction for the last 12 years.
Absolutely amazing. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. Do you feel that in life, God, a higher power, the universe, whatever people believe in, absolutely fine. Sometimes we've got to reach that dark moment, a little bit like the book The Alchemist, if you've read it, where you think that you're feeling this is the end of the world. Yeah, but actually it's actually directing you to the path you're supposed to be on, your actual life's purpose.
I think in hindsight, it absolutely is, but at the time, it's absolutely not, because all the props, all the illusionary 3D physical stuff, from a regular paycheck to a car to a villa, to all that stuff that propped me up in Dubai, and became a barrier to who I really was anyway, in hindsight. When that's all stripped away and you're left with the raw layers of the onion coming off and off and off and off, it's one step closer to whatever enlightenment means. And that energy vibration, and when you're forced to be into your heart space more, and you're forced to look up and pray to the power that might be, whatever the belief is, then I think in hindsight it's absolutely that blessing, providing that we don't forget that when we're back up on the ladder, whatever that may be. We can climb the ladder. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to like the view from the top either,
Yeah, of course, I get that. Yeah, it's like this higher power sometimes needs to strip us. We had a chat off camera, and it wasn't too long ago. I'm in my new house now, and God bless, I'm forever grateful for that. But it wasn't that long ago. I had no teeth. I was homeless. I was overdosing. But in so many ways, I think that God or a higher power needed to strip me of everything, to humble me, and actually put me in the direction that I was supposed to be going in. And you know what? It's probably going to happen again somewhere along the line, because he's got a bigger plan, a better plan than all of us, right?
Well, absolutely. The short space of time I've known you, you definitely have a very gentle and humble air about you, and I just sense a lot of gratitude, whether it's an email, a text, or, the interview that we're doing now. So it's as equally humbling for me to lean into this energy that's not fear-based. It's very optimistic. It's very civilized, and we need more of it in the world, right?
Definitely. You come across as a man who's very comfortable embracing vulnerability, speaking so openly and honestly, which men we seem to struggle with, right? But actually, I think I read a book by Brené Brown, And it just says embrace vulnerability, because that's where real growth, that's where real courage is. Is that something that happened before?
Well,
should we call it a breakdown where you've written the dollar signs on the wall?
yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I actually harnessed vulnerability to my advantage. And when I did my first Dollarsandart exhibition in 2013, against all the odds at Media One Hotel in Dubai, and they gave me the whole ground floor of the hotel for 28 days. I didn't want to be in a gallery. I wanted to be where the media went for lunch, and that was the Media One Hotel. And when I did it, I overheard some fellas in the lobby going, "Oh, my 4-year-old could have painted that." And it was the biggest compliment they could have given me, because the time that I painted that in such a dark space 2 or 3 years before, it expressed a vulnerability with no boundaries, with no brief, without an art teacher telling me I'm crap at painting or drawing. So it was the biggest compliment I could have got. And I remember at the time I formed a bit of a tagline called Art with a Story with Vulnerable Glory. And my agent in Dubai pulled me in 2014. He went, "Mate, it's not a sob story. Get art with a story and vulnerable glory out of that." He said, "You're not it sounds pathetic." And I'm like, "Well, I used to play rugby. I used to be, the guy on the door. I used to measure me vulnerability in other ways. And I had all these corporate layers that were covering the vulnerability up. And as an art agent, you can't show vulnerability. You've got to show your poker face. I'm crap at poker now. I used to be all right when I had my corporate suit on, because I had the layers protecting me. I had the title, I had the car, I had the bonus, I had the staff. And I'd like to think I still treated the staff as I'd like to be treated at the time. But it felt so far removed that when all the layers were stripped down, and my rent check's about to bounce in Dubai after my exhibition, and when you bounce a check there, it's not pretty, and you can wave goodbye to your freedom to a certain amount of degree back in the day. So all that vulnerability, I've since learned to harness and be a bit bumbling and never have the perfect painting or the perfect podcast or the perfect NFT that's minted. And when you are comfortable with that and doing that, and I'm not saying I've come from the streets to be a graffiti artist. I'm not. I've come from a hardworking master's degree in civil engineering with a degree in marketing that I realized were just complete props that measured your application to regurgitate facts. I'd much rather create something on a blank canvas about, say, your life and your story, and we lean in together as equals. And we're both the artists of you're the artist of your own canvas. You're living proof of that now. So let's, without trying to sell to a salesman, let's get that down and let's lean in together and create something. And that's what you're dealing with here. It's not for me to go away and unveil a piece of work about your life in 6 months' time. It's for us to work with you and your family on it and create something called legacy art that should embrace parts of the vulnerability of anyone's story. So yeah, I'm really pleased you hit on that word, because if you'd have asked me that 7-8 years ago, I'd have patched over it. But now it's come round full circle to serve me a lot better.
Yeah, I totally get you, mate. Thank you for sharing as well. I find it so powerful and so empowering, and actually encourages me to be a little bit more open, because I'm going through the 12 steps program at the moment, and all the things that I was so scared of saying, Jim, going, I think I'm a little bit powerless, that once I have one, I can't stop. People go, "Oh, I can totally relate." And you're thinking, fuck, I was so scared of saying that. I don't have to be this wolf-like sales character, which is all those nonsense that I built up. Does that make sense? What I think people want me to be accepted.
No, for sure. I also think as well, it takes more courage to realize it's every day at a time for all of us, whether you drive, whether you're speeding in the car, you're eating your breakfast too quick, you're running across the road, you're drinking alcohol, you're taking this, you're doing the other. I talk too much. I'm trying to focus on my listening skills. That's not a bad third world problem to have. And it's what I'm coming up to 4 years without a drink now. And it's psychologically for me, I don't want any layers adding on. So I'm terrified of adding layers on that will move me away from my authentic self. So my higher self comes in and goes, having that nice ice cold pint of Guinness, is that worth 24 pints of Guinness later and the regret? Or do you want to keep going towards that path of your true self. And when it affects what's going to be my 14th art collection in 11 years, you think, well, there's too much at stake. I can't afford those cards to topple. Like yourself with your new house and your success in sales, why would you give that up for the sake of, you can still have that ice cold drink. It might not have ethanol in it. I'm the master at 0% fever tea tree gins and cheering everyone at the wedding. They don't know I'm not drinking. It's no one's business. I know what I'm drinking. It's not ethanol though.
I get you, mate. Totally get you. Do you mind asking about your recovery? Did you stop, or did you have to go into a program? Or
weirdly, I'd volunteered for some mental health art tutor work at HMP Berwyn, which is a super prison in North Wales. 2,500 inmates, 1,200 staff. And I went in as a role model for 3 months, 3 times a week. And for me to be that role model, I thought the last thing any of these lads need is me going in talking about last night's Rioja. So I stopped for 3 months. And what was really weird, I started reading up on it and started reading that what I didn't realize was when you take that drink, your liver produces something more toxic to fight the ethanol that you're putting into your body. And I was like, so no wonder my heart flutters. And I got really sensitive to it. And after 3 months, I'm just like, apart from Sunday dinner with the odd lamb dinner and a trigger of a glass of red, I just cracked on, Lee. And it wasn't even planned or discussed. It was literally right. And I went back and I had to look a couple of I don't call them inmates, a couple of the residents in the eye after the art thing. And they asked how I was getting on. And I said, are you still booze free? I mean, they don't have a choice in there, but it became a bit of an in thing. And I'm like, yeah, what about you? And then before we know it, lockdown came, and they're the masters of lockdown, right? So I was looking at them for inspiration during lockdown, where they were used to that. So again, vulnerability became a currency, even when it wasn't necessarily planned. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was definitely an energy vibrational thing, if I could put it that way.
Yeah, I totally get you. It's really strange, the conversation we've just had there. I think we've got similar belief systems off our recent conversations, but I think we've both mentioned that, and forgive me if I'm wrong here, about losing things, that we're still stopping or still wanting to stop alcohol because of a fear-based thing. We're actually the abundant part of actually stopping drinking, what it could add to our lives and add to our families' lives. Is that something that's been programmed as a child? Do you think that if you stop drinking, you're going to miss out on this? And we're like verbal conditioning as children, don't we?
Oh, well, for sure. I mean, I remember sat on my dad's knee at 14, match of the day Saturday, big fluffy, probably crap pint of John Smith's, and give us a sip, Dad, and I'd burp this shandy up and it was horrible. And then I'd have a glass of Ribena when my mum and dad had red wine. But don't forget the conditioning, particularly, north of England conditioning, either side of the Pennines, would be, it's a celebration, have a drink. I finish my work, have a drink. It's a bereavement, have a drink. It's what he would have wanted, have a drink. Yeah. And what's wrong with you? You're not having it. And that's social conditioning, thanks to Dubai, because the whole drink driving thing and the whole alcohol social thing there's plenty of places where you can fill your boots with brunch. But I felt it kind of numbed me and deadened me. And when I was doing the art, it very rarely added to it. If anything, it made me more numb to the outcome of my work. I was less aligned to it. It was more slapdash. So it kind of stopped doing me the favors, partly because, like yourself, when you get up that tree towards what you're put on this world to be, why filter that? If anything, I've got to try and cool my jets occasionally, which is why I got me incense burning on every Zoom call, because otherwise you wouldn't get a word in.
I love it, mate. Honestly, this is fantastic. You're just speaking my language. Language is so important, and it's how we connect the dots with each other, right? And
yeah, sure.
really embracing each other's, I don't know, values and opinions. What, to yourself, Jim, as a businessman and as a man or as a human being, what values are your sort of cornerstones, please?
Well, I think being our true selves, which is to try and be in the heart space as much as we can, as much as possible. I find myself communicating now more hand on heart, and I use that phrase a lot more. And in terms of the values, obviously want to operate with a degree of integrity. And And I think there's two types of people I come across, and I've got a bit of a filter. They're either drains or radiators. The radiators make me feel good and I make them feel good. And the drains just completely zap me and exhaust me. And I have to protect myself against that. So my ultimate value is love. I think the ultimate human value is love. I think one of the worst values, if we, I shout at mainstream media and turn the radio off and turn the telly off and I roll. Well, I shouldn't let that negativity filter in. So, I almost have to turn to the value of apathy, which is indifference. I'm not doing any harm to anyone. So whatever the world's telling me, I don't need to tune into that frequency. And whatever telly and radio channel we're on, we can carry that in our hearts to see us through a day, an hour, a minute, or an out breath or an in breath. And I think we're getting more and more like that in our society, as middle-aged blokes can talk openly like this without walking on a bed of hot nails and subscribing to Tony Robbins. We can do it between us. Thanks.
I agree with you completely. So I'm looking at the art behind you.
Oh yeah,
Mr. Donald. Super. I read a story about this. Do you mind if I ask about it?
Sure.
Super. Well, he's actually the author of one of my favorite books ever, The Art of the Deal. I think he's got another one called Think Big and Kick Ass, which I absolutely love, by the way.
Yeah.
I love it. I think he's amazing. So I'm not going to go into the political side of his book because I don't understand politics.
No, it's okay.
Can you tell us about the art itself, please, mate, and the story behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to start with what I call the money shot, which is the signed $1 bill by what formerly, this was before he announced he was president of America.
Yeah.
And I folded it to get the all-seeing eye for obvious reasons. And the bank card either side of the £1 note from 1971, which is the pre-decimal year I was born, that's my NatWest card that I'd maxed out at the time. And what I decided to do was get Trump as the general of Twitter. And bearing in mind this, I painted this in 2016, which was 4 years before Uncle Sam literally booted him off Twitter.
Wow.
So we said about the value of love, and my conclusion with the whole Trump thing was love him or hate him. He's one of the most disruptive forces in the world of politics. And he was actually quite refreshing. But when I met him, bless you, when I met him back in Dubai, I asked him to sign the dollar bill. And it was a huge gala dinner at the Atlantis Hotel on the Palm. And he was opening the Akoya Damak Resort, where he was greeting 300 investors to say, welcome to Akoya Damak. You've dropped between £3 and £6 million on one of these villas. It's going to be built by 2017, 2018. And this was only 2014. So I got to him, sign the dollar bill, please. I'm doing something called the Heroes and Villains. And he turned around and he said, are you asking me for $1? I said, no. Could you sign the dollar? And he said, I'll sign the dollar, but I keep your pen. I said, well, if you keep my pen, can you sign the $2? Because it's worth more than the pen. So I kind of got him to sign both, and we got the photo, and you'll see it flash up, and he signed both bills. Well, a year later, he was sworn in to run for the presidency of America. And 8 months after that, he was president of the US from 2016 to 2020. And what was unbelievable, the two pieces that I did, everything within both artworks has since come true. It was uncanny how this has happened. So wow. The first one called Top Trumps, which is in the US, actually, it's in California for resale. When that sold for 80 sterling, the guy that bought it off me, who's a dear friend of mine, he's actually part of my NFT team in Dubai. He was going through a domestic situation. He said, mate, I'm going to have to give you the Trump art back. We're separating and I can't show any luxury items on my bank balance. You're going to have to take the work back. I said, mate, pay me over the next 2 to 3 years.
2 seconds, mate. Really... Jim, can you hear me there, mate? I'm really sorry. It's frozen completely. I can hear you, but the image is frozen. It's such a good story. We can edit this if I can ask about it again.
Sure.
I might try and move. Is that all? Can you actually hear me, Jim?
Yeah, no, I've got you. It's perfect.
So I'm going to move where I am in the house, mate. I don't know if it's my reception or yours. I'm terribly sorry.
No, it's okay.
Such a fucking good moment, that. Sorry, man.
No, mate. It's all right. We got time. That's what the beauty of editing is. We'll as long as you give yourself.
Definitely.
I mean,
Hey,
to be honest, as I was picking the art up, I thought I shouldn't have got it up off the wall. So if we go again on the whole Trump, I can just point behind it.
I certainly will. So the art on the wall behind you, Jim, Mr. Donald Trump, one of my favourite books of all time. The Art of the Deal. He's got another one called Think Big and Kick Ass. I won't go into his political beliefs because I don't know them and I'm not that interested in politics, should be known. But can you tell us about your meeting, about the art itself and the story behind it, mate?
Yeah, sure. Well, back in 2013, I'd conceptualized something called Heroes and Villains in Dubai, which was 20 artworks, 10 of very famous people and 10 of not so famous people. But the 10 not so famous were the spiritual workers, the guy who cleans the car, the security guard, the one who fills your car up with petrol in Dubai, the lady at reception. And Dubai is a society where you've got both sides of the coin and one can't run without the other. So I was connected with Jordan Belfont, the Wolf, Manchester United, Alice Cooper, Leona Lewis, there was Eric Clapton, Piers Morgan. Anyway, my mate said, ultimately, Donald Trump is who you need to get to. So this is 2013, coming up to 2014. And he was going to be in Dubai on the 29th of May, 2014, to open the Akoya Damak Golf and Villa Resort off plan to greet all the people, the 300 or 400 people that had spent £2 to £3 million off plan to take their dream villa in 5 or 6 years' time. Little did we know at the time, 5 or 6 years' time, he'd be president of America. He'd be the 45th president. So I managed to get to him through a few connections unofficially. And my link to getting to him to stop at a big gala dinner was through a local Arabic lady who was a huge fan of Ivanka. So I said, I can get you to meet Ivanka Trump. Do you want to come with me? So she cut through security like butter. And I said to Trump, could you sign the dollar bill? And thankfully he said, well, you asking me for a dollar bill, boy? I said, no, could you sign the dollar bill? I want to put you in Heroes and Villains. He said, I'll sign the dollar bill, but I get to keep your pen. I said, well, hang on a minute. If you're gonna keep my dollar bill and my pen, you've got to sign another banknote. So that's him there, and we folded it over the all-seeing eye. But what's quite crazy, I made him the general of Twitter. And this is before he was president of America. So everything I've done on this, lo and behold, has actually come true. Yeah. And when I left that night, I hope you like the red hair, by the way, because he went quite orange during his presidency, didn't he? And because it was Heroes and Villains and the Disruptives, whether you love him or loathe him, we did not predict for a minute that 18 months after meeting him, he would be the 45th president of America. So one of them, called Top Trumps, that went into the exhibition of Heroes and Villains. And the guy, this is shivers down my spine as I tell you, one guy walked into the gallery, he said, I can't decide whether to buy the overalls that you've painted on, which I did on a building site with all the labourers, or the Donald Trump one. I said, well, why don't you take them both? Because you've just solved the key to the exhibition, Heroes and Villains. I'm not saying who the heroes and villains are. Is it Trump for creating all the jobs, or is it Trump for keeping the money? Is it the construction workers? Who's to say they're angels? Who's to say the heroes? Who's to say the villains? So he bought both off me. 3 months into the story, he'd only paid the deposit. He had a domestic situation and said, look, I'm going to have to give you the art back. I can't afford to pay you. I can't show any traces of money. Anyway, I said, look, pay me over the next couple of years as and when you can. And he's become a really good friend of mine. And that other artwork is now in California for sale, for resale. And it's the first £1 million ticket artwork that we've done, thanks to the legacy that became Donald Trump. So I'm glad you picked up on that, because wherever I bring him and take him, he certainly gets that reaction and is certainly one of the most disruptive people of all time, you know.
Certainly is. But just to be clear then, the piece of art you painted or you've designed, created, is a £1 million piece at resale.
The piece in California, this piece now has never been onto the open market. That starts at 80,000 sterling gallery. So whoever goes for that 80 sterling, and we've got 750 NFTs minted from the Dubai team at Virtua, which is the Terra Virtua platform, and they've minted 750 versions of this. And when they've all gone, I can then release that into the open market, or I can destroy it, depending on what the buyer of that piece wants to do.
Why would you destroy it? What does that mean?
Well, occasionally, if there's a one-on-one NFT of that on the blockchain, and it's the only digital imprint that exists in the pure form with a registration number,
yeah.
As part of the deal, they have the physical asset. And I've had one guy, a Saudi guy, say, "I'll buy it, but I want to set the original on fire."
Wow.
I said, "Well, that sounds fantastic, but it's like you can't have it, so no one else can." It's like, the classic murder case.
Yeah.
I couldn't have it, so no one else can. So, you get this, the art world's it defies logic, a lot of it, particularly now with NFTs, crypto and blockchain, and that makes it even more disruptive, So who knows what's going to happen with it? We'll see.
So people in the Middle East then, Jim, the wealth, is it what we read here? Is it that just crazy abundant to the point where they would buy some art just to destroy it for whatever reason they had?
Well, it depends. It's such a personal thing. I mean, there's a lot of one-of-one cars, one-of-one villas, one-of-one pets, one-of-one people. I think it was KLF burned £1 million back in the early 90s with the video. And it's that wastefulness of society where if they did something to the blockchain, so we minted that with my voice and video talking through the full story that I've just shared with you, but we go into every element of that, or we could get 1,000 people to buy fractional parts of that piece. And when all 1,000 pieces have gone and it becomes the jigsaw, it's up to the highest bidder then to decide what they do with that original. Now, in my world, I'd want the original on the wall, thanks, because I'd be like, do you see all that fuss for 10 years? This is the original. So one of the projects I'm engaged in at the moment is the Grime Gorillas with the Tales from the Trap with Terry Stone and the guys who I know you know well. And that was, build these gorillas, build the logo, get the NFTs going. And then in 2 or 3 years' time, the art behind that film after the film will be worth so much more than just doing a painting for the sake of it. So the Trump story, I had no idea he was going to be president of America, let alone run for president of America, let alone sign not $1 but $2 bills illegally and break his own American constitution, which is 6 months in jail for defacing the dollar bill.
Wow.
So my first port of call when this has gone as the NFT, because there's 750 NFTs minted of this, different colors, different voices, different sounds, anything from $100 up to $5,000, digital versions of that with blockchain. When they all go, it's then a question of publicity and the right context of what happens with that original. I'd like to think it was kept safe, but I have to go where the art world takes it,
Absolutely. You talk about disruptors. Now, history tells us with art, with music, movie, sport, whatever it may be, we're gifted with these disruptors who are coming along every generation, every 10 years. We've had Musk, Jobs, and however many over the past few years. Trump definitely fits that mold, right? You think even Twitter to be sort of the king and then the demon of Twitter, and he's an old man who shouldn't really understand it. He's just a natural born disruptor, right?
Absolutely. And I think to stand out as a disruptor during such noisy, disruptive times anyway, and a time where a lot of us are eye rolling at the media and the newspapers and if I buy a newspaper now, I'll do the puzzles and think, why don't I just buy a puzzle book? I don't believe anything I'm reading. And I'll flick on to, anything from spiritual stuff to Russell Brand's latest uncovering to, dare I say, the conspiracy word. I don't believe the conspiracy word exists these days, and it shouldn't. Conspiracy theory, conspiracy fact, like Jay-Z says. So we're in these such fast-moving times of head versus heart, and I believe the whole Dollarsandart ethos is to keep it as much in the middle of our chest as we can, because that's something that AI can't replicate and keep us spinning round in like busy fools. So that's what I'm trying to. I'm starting to walk on my grass a lot more bare feet. Do you know what I mean?
I totally get you, mate. I totally get you. It's really interesting with disruptors who often get described as genius. The two are quite parallel. And people always have the comment that says, I'll say, for example, Floyd Mayweather. boxer that say genius. He'd be great if he wasn't so arrogant. And Trump, he would be so brilliant if he wasn't so opinionated. But I think the two aren't mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. You can't be that great and think differently without.
If you drop the if, then they aren't. So Floyd Mayweather, I've just looked after the boxer Sugar Ray Leonard for 7 days here in the UK, and we did golf, and it was for the sporting club events, and we had him for dinner, and Floyd idolizes Sugar Ray still, and Floyd was over in Dubai having his rooftop party at Float aboard the QE2, where I'm lucky enough to have an art exhibition at the moment, and we're going to get Sugar Ray over this winter, probably February 2023, and I said jokingly to Ray, you're going to get Floyd over, because I've met him once, but he's got a huge entourage around him and a lot of respect, and a lot of my work's about money and the dollar sign and energy. Money's energy, right? It's an exchange. And he's like, well, yeah, if you want Floyd there as well, he's, you might get a bigger bill, but there's no reason why we can't both be there. So that's on my radar, and I'm so glad you mentioned him specifically, and Trump, because if he wasn't this, then we would. Well, if he wasn't that, we wouldn't be talking about him. And I think those human traits, I'd be a great interviewer if I could listen more, but I get excited and I talk too much. Sorry. It's like, that's part of my DNA, and thankfully you're a good listener.
Yeah, well, we're both salesmen, right? So at heart. Yeah, Terry was great as well. Terry Stone, your friend, what a nice gentleman, and what a great listener he was, and really humble fellow as well, like yourself, just really nice to speak to.
Terry says it as it is. He's believed in my work for 7-8 years when most other people were frowning and laughing, and Terry gave me one of my first serious commissions to celebrate when Frank Sinatra would have been 100, which would have been in 2015, December the 12th. And I'm lucky enough to get the gig, and Terry's collected my work since. And then this whole, trending on Amazon now is Rise of the Foot Soldier, the whole lot of them. There's another 3 films coming, and within that genre, and this Tales from the Trap with the Grind Gorillas that me and the team have been working on for him and Paul Carroll it's been an absolute honor to do. And it's now my 14th collection. It takes us back full circle,
Superb. But again, shows you, right? Show me your friends, and I'll show you what your future looks like. It's good to be around good people who believe you and actually try and empower you, because we get more by giving more.
Terry also is a good mate, because he tells me, Jimbo, fuck off. Terry will be like, I'll get to a point, or I'll get excited, and he'll just tell me, like a good mate should, he'll just tell me straight, where's your head? Get back in the room. And and we all need that, and I respect him so much for that, because he's making for the best in all of it. He just wants the best,
Yeah, he's a nice man. But you're also an author as well.
Wow, that's going back. Yeah, Go Smell the Flowers.
Flowers. What's that about, please?
Wow, well, that was back in 2005. Quite happy in the corporate road of Dubai, and I resigned.
Yeah,
I'd met this girl. We made a bucket list of where we wanted to go around the world, and off we travelled for a year and wrote a book about it. Her from her perspective and mine from mine perspective, and it became an Eat, Pray, Love. And we had a book offer from Hay House in 2007, and the ending was false, because it was a happy ending and we were going to be together forever. At the time, I was in Dharamshala meeting the Dalai Lama, having a big awakening. This is 4 years before the art breakdown, by the way. I didn't even know you'd delve this deep with me, but that was Go Smell the Flowers. And because I changed the ending and said, look, this is what's really happened, we're no longer together, Hay House said, it's not a nice enough ending, we're not going to publish it. So I'm now vowing to write my solo follow-up, which is called The Wake Up Call, Go Smell the Coffee.
Love it. You've got to do it, brother. Got to do it.
I know. Which is all this stuff about the art and everything that I didn't even know. The very end of Go Smell the Flowers, I put that I was on a journey, and I discovered things I didn't even know about myself. And a year later, the crash came, 08, 09, and bereavement and loss, and this art thing came. And before you know it, 15, 20 years has gone,
It does go so quick.
That's quite a curveball that you've thrown there. I appreciate that. I wasn't expecting the book to come out, but thank you.
No, listen, Jim, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate spending time. We have learned so much. Can you give us a message to anybody who may be going through the Dubai crash, you know, the art meltdown, we called it, somebody who's having a tough time at the moment? Any advice to them and what may be ahead of them if they'd be a bit more open-minded maybe?
I think number one is start taking the basics that you're taking for granted with a sense of gratitude. It could be being able to see, could be able to hear, be able to breathe, be able to stand up. I got quite intrigued with the prison service and what proper isolation meant. I started reading books about other people with their dramas and their lives. You know, like I could listen to your story and everything that you've been through. Now you've made a huge success and continue with that humble way to become more successful. And I think it's about getting back to gratitude, getting back to basics, not necessarily seeking approval of people closest to you because you're changing. You're not going to be the person that they think you should be or they thought you were. And when I went through my Dubai melt, I was told, you know, go to Saudi, go to Qatar, get a bigger job, move on to the next thing. You'll be fine. Whereas it was almost like you're beating yourself up about it and something's refusing to budge and you just go back to basics. And there's obviously the cliches of not giving up, and you realize that people are busy people, they're all getting on with their lives, talk about it, and you find often complete strangers can be more sympathetic and compassionate than people that know you. And those people that want to know you for who you really are, they'll stay with you. And the ones that don't, let them go, like the caterpillar coming out to be the butterfly. Just let that layer go.
Amazing. I love that. I absolutely love it. Tell me what else I loved. I never touched on it. Donald Trump, the hustler that he is, even at that point, he's over there in Dubai. He wasn't president yet, but he must have been there on a huge business deal, of course, opening up them apartments. And he still haggled over a pen.
Well, it's funny. I've spoken to it since. I played golf with a guy who was ex-Secret Service, and I told him about he wanted the pen over the dollar. And I said, well, sign the $2 and then I'll give you the pen. And the Secret Service guy who I played golf with said, well, yeah, he's keeping the pen because it's got his fingerprints on it as soon as he signs the dollar. I said, but he wasn't president then. He said, yeah, but he probably knew he was going to be. I'm like, no, it's the art of the deal, mate. He wanted the pen that's worth more than a $1 and a $2 bill. And he put this horrendous pen in his pocket.
Yeah.
And off he went with this like pen that probably heated up and smudged his white shirt later. I don't know. I never saw the pen again, but I've still got the dollar bill and the $2. I doubt he's got the pen. So who won?
Who won? You know, what's more powerful, the pen or the sword? It's the art of the deal. It just is. So you've got to walk away from each transaction thinking, I won. And little bricks build big castles. The more little wins you get in life, whether it was spiritually, commercially, helping people, you'll end up good. It's
funny you use that metaphor because the podium I put Trump on is actually Lego bricks because of his childlike rants. And I've managed to collect the $1 bill up to a $100 bill in Lego in the art behind me. So it's got a real childish feel and an air of vulnerability to the work, which I think is something I don't want to lose in my work, you know?
Please don't, man. Please don't. Listen, I want to say thank you for coming on, Jim.
Lee, thank you so much. Thanks for listening. It's felt like therapy this today. Thank you.
I really enjoyed that, mate. You know, it's one of my favourite episodes I've ever had there. I just connected you on a real human level and I've learned a lot. So thank you so much for joining us on the Little Bricks podcast. Where can people see you, see what you do on social media or see your work maybe?
The easiest way is Dollarsandart. That's Dollarsandart or Dollarsandart. That's across all socials and Dollarsandart.com. And yeah, let's engage. I say engage, create, facilitate, and I'd love to work with you and anyone that listens in again. And my door's always open.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Jim. I appreciate it.
Cheers, Lee.
Oh, man.
All the very best.
Join the award-winning team at Bespoke Financial, where you get free training in your own time.